So something that I picked up was the term AI native, and I'd like to unpack that because I think it's becoming meaningless through overuse.
Yeah.
Everyone claims to be AI native right now. What does it actually mean to be AI native operationally?
When we say AI native, so that effectively for us means rethinking every single process of what would have happened before an LLM existed.
You claim that 360 Labs delivers prototypes in 24 hours, right? So can you walk me through how is that mechanically possible?
Every business fundamentally has a scale problem. So I think the only way to solve that is through team. The only fundamental advantage that you have with Commodity was speed. So that is where we'd like to place, our bets. The best talent is going to condense more and more towards smaller teams where they actually get to feel ownership, where they actually get to, build a product end to end.
Is foundational model development the right bet for India, or should the ecosystem focus entirely on application? Yeah.
And language has always been like an abstraction of reality, not reality itself. So the actual models that'll be what we call foundational in the future will be very, very different architecturally. They will either be world models or like physics-based models, models that are helpful for robotics, models that actually allow real world understanding to take place. So I actually don't think the future belongs to LLMs.
Hi, Prithvi. How are you today?
All well, doing well. Thanks for asking.
Sorry for hogging your Sunday, but thank you so much for doing this. So one of the primary questions that I had is that this something about your background, right? So you went to the University of Toronto, and then you tried building a mental health marketplace that I think I read didn't hit PMF according to you. That post that you went to London, worked across 4 startups, were the first employee at Bridge.ai, scaling to 7 figures ARR, and then 2 edtech attempts essentially. So that's a lot of lessons compressed into a very short time. What's the thesis? What's the through line? What's some of the insights that you picked up?
I mean, yeah, for me, so I started attempting to build companies around the age of 18, seen people around me. Effectively, growing up in Delhi, business has been like a through line throughout life, right? That is what you see most elder people doing. Yeah, just keeping in mind that, but the world of startups was very new to me. Even at 18, 19, I did not really have exposure to the world of startups or what it means to build a tech native or a SaaS native company. So yes, when I did start off, it was like a very, very naive attempt. I just thought, okay, what are most people around me struggling with? Everyone's struggling with mental health. It seems that that is like, the one through line for Gen Z. And so try to attempt building like a Tinder for finding your therapist and finding the ideal therapist. So you can effectively, what we try to do at Mentors, early version of Mentors, like you can just swipe and keep swiping till you find the ideal therapist profile for you. So yeah, we ended up onboarding like 12 therapists on that app. Yeah, really didn't do well. Indian ecosystem was not ready for something like that. So yes, after that, before that, I was actually at the University of Toronto, and I dropped out from there. I'd spent like about a year, studying everything from like maths, economics, CS, philosophy, psychology. I took up like any module that interested me. Dropped out and then came back, and then I was like, let's try and attempt building companies. First one really did not go well, so I took a transfer. Indian parents being Indian parents, they were like, just get a degree and then do whatever the fuck you want. We don't care after that. So yeah, so then transferred to London, then studied. I realized through my first attempt that you really do need to be a lot more tech native even to be a founder. Even if you want to be the non-technical founder on the team, you still need to be a lot more tech aware. And so that was my thesis, or that was my goal behind going and studying like IT, AI, taking up product design, and that is where I found my interest lying, more towards PM and product and design.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, that's quite the background. It sets context for anything and that follows. I mean, and I love that 1 year sabbatical of learning anything and everything. So that's amazing. And so something that I picked up was the term AI native, and I'd like to unpack that because I think it's
Mhm.
becoming meaningless through overuse. Everyone claims to be AI native right now. So what does it actually mean to be AI native operationally?
Interesting. Again, so we have our own like hypothesis behind this. When we say AI native, um, So that effectively for us means rethinking every single process of what would have happened before an LLM existed to now, and rethinking every process. Let's say you've got a system. Let's say I someone comes and asks us to build like a simple CRUD application. That can be like a food delivery app or a booking app, etc. Even if the app doesn't have any AI features built into it, we will still claim that we're an AI native software dev house simply because each one of our engineer comes from like an AI research background or some sort of an AI engineering background. Uh, every single one of our like tech stack has been taken into consideration, keeping in mind what is going to stay and what is not going to stay. Their entire coding workflows, every engineer's single coding workflow, all of them are either using something like Cloud Code or a Codex. So that allows us to basically ship way faster than a traditional dev house, and which is what effectively for us means to be AI native. And that can go across. Like you can today, you can build like an AI native restaurant, you can build an, I don't know, an AI native cafe, but it is effectively like think of every single workflow or every single input output system that you would have had to put together.
Mhm.
What was that looking like pre LLM and what is that looking like post LLM? And they should look fundamentally different.
Okay. So anything that you say can technologically pass the test of time essentially will qualify as an AI native infrastructure or AI
Mhm.
native output is
Yeah, yeah, more or
com-
less.
compressed understanding. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And so I read that you say you've claimed that 360 Labs delivers prototypes in 24 hours, right? And so can you walk me through how is that how is that mechanically possible? So task from prototype to production, how does that work?
Right. So yeah, that is something that has been surprising, like surprising to so many of our like prospects or anyone that comes into our pipeline. So like for instance, literally day before yesterday, we were on call with a public steel company. Um, we only got one sentence brief from them. They were like, "We want to work on an AI native CRM and ERP." Within like and 24 hours is effectively like a extrapolation. It usually just happens in 2 or 3 hours. 24 hours is how much time it takes for the whole process to happen of like us scoping the whole thing out and then getting back to the client. So we just like our tech team, our CTO first just effectively parsed their entire website, understood exactly what other competitors are doing, exactly what other AI native CRMs or ERPs are doing, compressed all of that into one single PRD, gave that to one of our senior engineers. He sprinted for 2 hours and came up with an output, instantly got on a demo call with them, and they saw that and they were like, "Who have you built this for before?" Or like, which competitor have you sold this to before? And we were like, "This is just all custom built for you." So
Right.
that is usually what happens. So it is effectively like, since we are, we split the work across multiple people. So it'll be
Okay.
either me or my CTO stepping in on like product research side, creating that PRD, creating that sprint for one of the engineers to take on. Then once they take it on, then they know exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're hitting.
Got it.
And so that is just very, very clear for them. And that is what allows us to, within 3 to 4 hours.
So you're attributing the timeline to a less number of people, b more structured working routine. How do you see that scaling?
Yeah.
This eventually creates a scale problem. How are you
Yeah, I know.
planning to solve that?
For sure. Every business fundamentally has a scale problem. So I think the only way to solve that is through team. I, I don't know if like I'm sure you're familiar with Naval Ravikant, and
Yeah,
one of the quotes that he keeps saying about even like everyone from Steve Jobs to Naval Ravikant, all of them have this one constant throughout any of the great CEO of the past has just been the main job of the founder is effectively just like recruitment and team building, and that is the
yeah,
only thing. Like someone
yeah,
asked Steve Jobs, "What is the greatest product you built?" He didn't say anything else. He just said the team. The
yeah,
Macintosh team was the greatest product he built.
yeah.
So that is my solution to everything. It is fundamentally not a very exciting or not a very sexy answer, but
Mm,
that is how you solve
No,
scale for any business. The
TCS has about 600,000 employees and about $28 billion in revenue. Uh,
Mhm,
Infosys has about 300 plus thousand employees. So you're a team of 10. And I just want to like to understand how do you essentially plan to stay in the segment, because you are, if not a direct and indirect competitor to these same companies who are
mhm.
shipping IT solutions, right? So how do you plan to tackle that?
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so just a bit more context around what we used to do at Bridge. So Bridge was actually founded by one of the co-founders was ex product AI product lead at Accenture. So he
Okay.
literally came from that Accenture style background, that Accenture Infosys style background. And the primary complaint that we've seen across that we because we've been working with public companies, we've been working with government ministries, we've been working with like a lot of these larger corporate firms that would have gone to one of these, the big fours or one of these large IT services companies. The biggest complaint, for instance, we're working with like a public Danish logistics company. Won't mention the name, but so their primary concern was we just need a team that can actually, just we're giving you the scope, we're giving you exactly what we need. Just actually come into our offices, sit with our people, figure out what they need, figure out their actual day-to-day workflows, and just please build us something within like 2 to 3 weeks, so
Okay.
that we can at least know where to devote our funds. And we actually did that within a week. So within a week, our team was actually we went down to their factory, we went down to their fleet management, we went down to their control towers,
Hmm.
literally sat down with the control tower manager, because effectively we were making a system that was going to replace the control tower manager, or that was going to effectively augment all of his workflows. Literally just sat down with him, told him, just tell us exactly what you do from like start of day to end of day.
Got it.
Took that entire process, documented it, converted that into a PRD. Within a week, had a SaaS platform that could effectively do the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, that is like a speed of that is like a speed of development that you fundamentally can't get with IT services companies, because the decision there's just like but like the layers of decision making are just like it's too many for them to actually be able to take decisions quick enough. And that is what every single YC company says. That is what every single that is what Sam Altman used to say in his early days. The only fundamental advantage you actually have as a small team is speed. That is the only thing. With everything else, someone else takes from you. The only fundamental advantage that you have as a small team is speed. So that is where we'd like to place, our bets. That
Got it.
we can get you a end-to-end production grade system way faster than any of these, large IT services companies could. And that is
Okay.
actually enough of a value add for most. So
So it's a speed versus scale problem, at least for you, and I call it the whatever innovators dilemma essentially. But what do you think is gonna stop eventually see the IT services firm to opt for automated workflows, given how AI is working, create cleaner teams, or maybe like a boutique spin-off and do the same thing? What's the moat? Um,
I hate that question. There is no moat. There has never been a moat. Yeah, man. Like I said, the answer is always going to be boring. The answer is always going to be like it's going to be speed. It's going to be team. It's going to be speed. Um, but yes, I do fundamentally like disagree with this whole idea of a moat. Especially for services companies, you can still argue there will always be some, but like for product companies, it's just so much harder today to, as a software company, to claim that you have any sort of moat. The only moat you have is actually just being ahead all the time, and just just taking a punch to the gut and just being like, we'll just always try and outwork, we'll just always try and be faster, we'll just always try and get the best guys. So for instance, currently we've got guys who are like ex Airtel, ex Amazon. We've got guys who had offers from like Google, who had offers from Netflix, but
hmm.
who've actually chosen to stay back, who actually chosen to be with us still, simply because of it's a team they love working with. It's a mission they really feel driven by. So that, like,
Got it.
the more younger engineers I'm speaking to,
Hmm.
who lie in our age bracket, most of them are like just really do not want to be. And I read through all of these applications, right? We have over like 3,000 people just on our job application form. I read through all of them. It's the same patterns. Like the more exceptional the engineer, the less he actually wants to contribute to a large code base.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the more exceptional the engineer, the more they're just like, we hate being like a tiny part of this massive code base that we don't even understand what the end product is. We actually want to have ownership. We actually want to be involved in the dev process. We actually want to be product builders, not just some microscopic engineers. So that it is, we know asymptotically the best talent is going to condense more and more towards smaller teams where they actually get to feel ownership, where they actually get to build a product end to end. And that again, but again, to answer your question, what stops an Infosys from having like a small boutique consultancy that just does this? Nothing. Nothing stops them.
Got it. No,
Yeah.
but that's a very good answer
Mm.
actually. It,
Yeah.
it does make sense, at least for the medium, like short to medium term. I think it's a great idea, and I'd also like to talk about SLM 360. Great product, by the way. So we'll get into that later. But a
Yeah.
hot take right now that I wanted to run by you is So India has tried building its own LLMs. Sarvam just raised 53 million, and like it has a lot of government backing as well. Is foundational model development the right sort of the right segue or the right bet for India, or should the ecosystem focus entirely on application? Given that you're somebody in the sector, what do you think?
Right, this is a very, very interesting thing, and we've actually considered, going that route of because our CTO has like an AI research background. He has been publishing papers. We do have over like 6 to 7 AI researchers on the team. We did explore going down the, why don't we just raise a massive sum of money and try and go the foundational model development route. But that being said, I okay, how do I put this? I don't actually think the biggest or the best bet is large foundational models. Again,
Okay.
I'm like somewhat relevant, obviously, but I'm not the best person to answer this question as well. But I do think the future belongs to a new kind of AI model, LLMs. And you've seen this with Jan LeCun, right? Jan LeCun leaving Meta.
Yeah.
You've seen this with Fei Leung leaving her previous role. All of
Hmm.
them are now focusing, trying to build a new kind of intelligence or
Hmm.
like a new approach to AI, which
Yeah.
is like not just restricted by language.
Yeah.
And we know this, like this has been well documented. This across history, like you can go through authors like even David Deutsch, people older. The fundamental approach with LLMs is that human intelligence can be condensed into language, but just from first principles thinking, you can almost see the flaws in that. Like
Yeah.
language is one level of abstraction above the reality. Like language is not actually reality.
Correct.
Language, like writing, was only invented a couple thousand years ago. So language has always been like an abstraction of reality, not reality itself. So the actual models that'll actually be what we call foundational in the
Yeah.
future. Say maybe it's one decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, but the actual foundational intelligence models will actually be very, very different architecturally. They will either be world models or like physics based models, models that are helpful for robotics, models that actually allow real world understanding to take place. So I actually don't think the future belongs to LLMs. So of course, I would love if there was another company like Sarvam. Sarvam is always already doing it. I have a couple friends that work there as well. Um, it would be incredible if we see, 2 or 3 more LLMs at the scale of something like an OpenAI or Anthropic come out of India. But it might not be the best use of our resources as of now. I do think the better use of resources is small language models, more fine-tuned specialized models. Take something open source, make it fine-tuned for a specific India native use case. Those, or like, have models that can actually run on device, that are actually multilingual. Those I think are the much more interesting bets for us, and which is what we're trying to do as well. So actually one of our pipeline projects is now two of our senior engineers are literally spending from 12 midnight to 4 a.m. just working on an AI native operating system. So
Okay.
we're actually building our own Linux based operating system.
Oh,
We want to
nice.
own the entire OS layer
Yeah.
and then embed SLM 360 into that. So
Okay.
effectively, the vision there is you should be able to have an operating system that runs on you can then run this on any blank Android phone. Then you give it as complex of an instruction as possible. You tell it, go to my gallery, open the third photo I took last month, and tell me effectively, what time that was taken, or go to this person's email, go to my thread with Drishti about, our podcast. What did she say on our third follow-up email? You can effectively, if you own both the OS layer and the AI layer embedded into that, you can effectively have a much, much more useful AI product than just, these like God in a box type, general intelligence, massive
Yeah.
LLMs. So yeah, that is my thesis.
No, absolutely. I think directionally it does make a lot of sense when you say language is an abstraction of understanding. It does add up, and I think there is cutting edge research being done on essentially how well can you compress understanding and
Hmm.
move away from language. How can you compress that into different vectors and see if you can train models better. So I think great take on that. Love that. But I see a lot of I think keen interest and your interest in on-device AI matter. And given that connectivity is ubiquitous now, why do you think you need? Why would anybody need an on-device AI system essentially?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is like one question we had to answer as well when we were trying to pitch SLM. But the main interest that we got for SLM has been from defense. But like we have been in conversations, we are doing pilots with, the Indian Army, Indian Navy, and like another ministry as well,
Got it.
which their applications are effectively they have to be on device since they need real time feedback. They need to operate in locations which are way off grid. So those kind of applications always, for instance, like self driving, right? Any sort of computation that is happening in a self driving car all happens locally. None of that is dependent on cloud. So those are the kind of applications where on device just becomes absolutely critical. Not saying we're solving for self driving, but as an example, same thing for like aviation. What if you need an SLM, or what if you need an actually intelligent model to run on a flight? Of course,
Yeah.
like some flights now have Wi-Fi, but again, not a sustainable approach. Same thing for shipping, same thing for logistics. It's the same thing when the applications which are like actually very critical, which are like sector two of society. There are so many of these applications where on device or local just becomes it just becomes critical since you can't always rely on internet. So those are the applications for now. Then eventually I do feel, and I've said this before as well on one of these, if you go back to 60s and 70s, and Andre Karpathy made this like brilliant observation, in his like last YC lecture, where he was like, just think of AI as operating systems. In 60s and 70s, you used to have operating systems. Everyone just got their operating systems from a mainframe, but eventually they became smaller, they became compressed, and you actually now have operating systems on device. Effectively, you don't even think of your OS as a separate part. You just think of it as a part of your machine. You don't think of it as a software layer running on your machine. So that I believe that is directionally where we're headed. So AI effectively just becomes so embedded and so critical. Um, Including the data privacy layer on top of that. Like you don't always want to be reliant on third party API calls. If I'm CEO or some executive at like a big four or some other large company, there is a lot of critical data with me. I still want to be able to access intelligence, but I want to be able to access intelligence that is on device. I need to know, like, my chats with my chat GPT or my Claude aren't leaving this. So that becomes very, so those are the two things.
Yeah.
So applications where there is low internet and applications where data privacy becomes like a massive concern.
So it's the irony is that we see companies moving from on-prem to now being pushed to cloud, and then we
Yeah.
see and then we see edge computing, and then it's just that creates a lot of dilemma in people's head as to okay, what is the
Yeah.
perfect fit? Like what is the sweet spot for cloud versus on-prem usage, and what is the sweet spot for say different kinds of computing models. I also read that you have a lot of ready to build, ready to deploy solutions, in your stack across healthcare, real estate, food operations. Right? So, can you talk us through the thesis behind each of these categories? Are you trying to create like a plug and play repository of solutions that can be used? Because that does significantly add value given the small team size and the small timeline that you give yourself.
Correct. So the main value add with a team like ours has been we step into any sort of conversation that can be with like a public company, a large corporation, a ministry, wherever we're stepping into, there is always something in our portfolio that we've done for that sector. And that has been a massive value add. So if we're sitting with a real estate, for instance, we were on call with a real estate company yesterday, uh, upwards of 500 CR ARR. We actually had enough builds in our portfolio to showcase to them. And our pitch wasn't that we're a real estate tech company. No, we're a tech company. We have done these like 4, 5 different projects in real estate that you might find interesting. And they actually did find them interesting. Same thing, we can step into like a conversation with, defense ministry or any sort of conversation we're stepping into. We can just be like, okay, these are the things we have actually done. And for your specific industry, we come with the domain expertise. And that becomes a very powerful pitch instead of us just niching down into one specific vertical over here. That alongside that, uh, what I realized when I was at Bridge was there is so much like cross applicability across sectors because the fundamentals always stay the same. It's like if you're a consultant, right? If you step into this like a different business every time, the patterns or the fundamentals usually stay the same of your building approach. So that has been a massive value add for us because we've been able to, and since we are actually able to see these multiple patterns across industry, that becomes then our flywheel as to we now see what foundational product will actually help all of them. So SLM was a great example of that. Since we did so many of these builds, we realized, okay, what is one foundational product we could build that can be used across most of these? And like a small language model was one realization we had. Same thing for we built something called Mem 360. I don't know if you know, there's like this YC startup called Mem Zero in the US, and we realized, yeah. So that is effectively like AI layer for AI memory layer for AI agents, and we had a Mem Zero subscription, and it was costing us like a lot of upwards of like 50, 100, upwards of that every month. So we just realized, why don't we just build our own memory layer for AI agents, and that now Mem 360 has been something that has been cross applicable for all our builds.
Well, that's quite nice. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things. Again, like same thing for we built this family of fine-tuned healthcare models
Okay.
called Med 360.
Yeah.
Hypothesis around that was, again, we're working with certain healthcare facilities in Qatar. We're working with some healthcare facilities in India, and we realized, okay, what is the one foundational product that actually helps all of them? And that was, what if you can compress a large, like 1.6, 1.7 trillion parameter models, medical intelligence, into like a much smaller model that is like a quarter or one fifth the size. And that is what we did with Med 360. And so again, the fact that we're able to see cross industry and realize the patterns is what allows us to, build these products that serve all of them.
One thing that I'd like to understand, so are these managed services that you're running, or are you just building a building and shipping out product? And
No, they're all long term. Most of our build contracts are like either annual or
okay.
recurring in some way. Where it's like
Okay.
we would do an upfront build and then you have some sort of like maintenance, upkeep, or what we like to call like a tech partnership, where we just step in as your technical co-founder. So that is usually the arrangement where you do like an upfront build and then still be involved long term.
So what are some of the risks to your current thesis that you see, that you foresee, and how do you think you're hedging against that?
Yeah, I mean, so the vision for me has been fairly clear since I started this. It has always been to start off with a consulting and a implementation wing, which is fundamentally unscalable. The only thing that is actually scalable long term is product. So, but you start with that to, like I said, to implement this flywheel, to work with multiple industries, to work with multiple large companies, to see what are the foundational products that you need to build, and then transition that into product. So like again, okay, like a great example of what we're building currently. It's called Omni AI,
Okay.
and what that is effectively every single CEO we've been talking to had the same problem of
Hmm.
GPT is great, Claude is great, but I needed to have more context. I needed to be fully aware of everything that's going on my Gmail, my Gmail, my WhatsApp, my Google Chat, my Slack. I needed to have context of all of that. I needed to be ever present. I needed to be always listening to what is actually going on around me.
Got
I
it.
needed to be effectively do anything. So something like a Claude bot
Hmm.
where I
Got
wanted to be able to like send my emails, manage my G Suite. I wanted to be able to, make a call on my behalf. I wanted to be able to make reservations on my behalf. Like an omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent AI, which like, knows everything, can do anything, and is effectively all powerful. So
yes.
that is something we realized, okay, this is the product that effectively every executive wants. And that
Yeah.
is something now that insight allowed us to now then be like, okay, let's actually try and build this. So
Hmm.
we are currently working on effectively an our own version of CloudBot, but an even more powerful version of that, which has even more context, can actually work across multiple different platforms.
Hmm.
And we're also introducing like you can build your own skill files for that. So what you can do with a Claude, what you can do with an Anthropic, you can to some extent do with CloudBot as well. And so that is now what we're building. And the main, yeah, go on.
Sorry. I just one question. What makes at least Anthropic and large hyperscalers products easy to adopt is the tech partnerships and the application level partnerships they have with vendors, right? So thereby solving API problems, or for instance, they have custom API accesses for some of these vendors that you might not have access to. So you'd either have to scrape, which again creates some other level of compliance issues, etc. How are you solving that?
Yeah, correct. Again, so the product is still in R&D, and those are literally, and which is why, okay, so again, flows into the same thesis. So while building Omni, we realized, okay, we actually need a really world-class scraper and a crawler, and which is then we funneled into, we started building Crawl 360, and which is
Okay.
effectively now a tool that you can effectively just give it, and it's live. People can actually check it out at crawl.360labs.ai. You can give it any sort of URL, and you literally just select the format you want this thing as like a JSON, as a PDF, as YAML, whichever format you want the information back in, or you want, if it's a form, you want it as a form, um, anything that you want an SEO audit, you want an AEO audit from that. You
Hmm.
just click and it literally brings it back to you. And we have built effectively a 5 tier capture resilient AI agent, which can do all of this. So none of this, the entire like crawl 360 is not affected by any sort of capture. It can pass edge capture, it can pass invisible captures. So then we realized, okay, if we want to get Omni right, we need to build this. And that is why we built this. And then now both of them are working together.
So, what I realized is, at least from my understanding, is that you have a fail fast approach, that you have the
Yeah.
leeway to take, because given the size and the timeline is so small, like it's not significant enough for you, right? Imagine if you were to go through 5 levels of approvals just to build one and to realize, oh, this doesn't work. Let us try again. That so I see how is that playing out, at least from a build and strategy side. Thanks for this understanding. We've covered a lot of topics in 32 minutes, I think. Uh, yeah, I think I got most of my understanding. Where do you think India's play lies, if not at the foundation level model? What do you think India should be focusing on?
Application layer for sure. Like no one understands Indian consumers better than Indians. Definitely application layer. Um, the only problem, because we have attempted that, we tried building something called Doctor Saab, which was supposed to be like an AI doctor, WhatsApp first AI doctor for Indian consumers. The only problem there is you run into people don't like paying for software in India, most of them. Like a massive chunk of the population actually does, which is why you saw, GPT lower their thing down to 300 rupees. um,
Yeah,
that is the only thing with consumer, but I do believe, and Brian Chesky, the Airbnb CEO, he says this
yeah,
constantly. He's like, stop shipping B2B only. Like B2B is great, but try building something actually consumer, which actually changes, the day-to-day lives of other people. So consumer is one. The other thing is what we're trying to explore, foundational AI products. Something like a super memory, which was built by
hmm,
an Indian engineer.
yeah,
Uh, some of these other tools, something like an emergent, again, that is playing at the application layer.
hmm,
So those are the kind of tools, effectively what is working in the West, because technology stays the same. Like the foundational AI products stay the same. So
hmm,
you need a memory layer for AI agents. You need any of these other you need like these vibe coding platforms. You need these platforms. So the foundational tech platforms or the foundational tech tools actually needed for infra are actually the same across.
yeah,
Um, and really doesn't have to be at the foundational level. That can be an application layer.
hmm,
So developer tools, consumer products, small models, Indian language native models, a lot of which Sarvam is doing, and they're doing some awesome work there.
yes.
So I think those are the primary plays that even we're trying to go after, and
Hmm.
what, I want to see more of. And
So I'm very excited to see how this will shape out, say in the next 2 to 3 years. I see that there's a two-pronged approach, and I would say two-pronged different principles, which industry innovators are talking about. Say one is commoditization as a threat, at least when you're building at an application layer, right? Which makes your product and service essentially obsolete. And the second is threat of specialization, because say, like for instance, you just spoke about on-call WhatsApp, sorry, an on-call health
Mhm.
agent. I just spoke to a founder of 2care.ai, and that episode will also come out
Mhm.
soon. What they've built is like, so they're using WhatsApp as an interface for chronic care patients, so they can just chat on WhatsApp and directly connect with their doctor. So they're using sector specific intelligence for that, right? And they have given it enough time, and they've connected with the right people. They've done a lot of R&D on that. How will you end up competing with that? Because once they attain scale, their whatever subscription prices will go significantly down. It'll be much lower than the cost of build for you. So both these situations make these solutions obsolete.
Yeah, fully agreed. Fully agreed. Which is what our realization was when we attempted to build like consumer level products was, hey, someone who's just doing this will always beat us. Mostly, like when we were trying to build Doctor Hub, the vision was the vision was great. Like a WhatsApp native, give Indians a doctor they can just access on WhatsApp, make it speak in Hindi. People can give it a voice note. People can give all of their documents. The vision was great, but then we were like, if a company gets 50 people to only work on this, they're always going to outscale us. They're always going to beat us.
Yeah.
So which is why we stepped back from consumer. We are going to be exploring consumer very soon, but again, from a different lens, from the Omni AI lens, or
Right.
from, we do have some hardware plans as well pretty soon. So from that lens,
Okay.
we're trying to get. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So you switch back from specific solutioning into core components and optimizing specific sectors, say like memory, storage, etc., and see how that can work. I think
Yeah.
that's a good play as well. Thank you so much for taking out your time, Prithvi. It was a great conversation. I hope a lot of people learn from this. And if you're a builder yourself out there, and if you think you found 360 Labs interesting, please reach out to Prithvi.
Well, if you are a company or any sort of executive trying to figure out or trying to understand where AI can actually be integrated into your company, our whole thesis behind building 360 was build a team that can actually step in, understand, build, deploy all within one cycle. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to anyone, just please feel free to reach out.